The arrival and the law, the shuttle bay doors of Kepler Station opened with a mechanical groan that echoed through the vast chamber. Dr. Zara Nightwhisper stepped onto the metal deck, her silver fur catching the harsh artificial light of the human outpost. Her amber eyes swept across the sterile environment, taking in the armed guards, the scanning equipment, and the cold efficiency that humans seem to favor in their military installations. She had traveled 3-star systems to reach this moment. The Vulpine Confederation had chosen her carefully for this mission, not just for her expertise in xenobiology, but for her diplomatic skills and her unusual ability to understand alien cultures. The peace negotiations scheduled to begin tomorrow would determine whether two species could coexist in the same galaxy, or whether the brewing tensions would explode into open warfare. Zara's traditional robes rustled softly as she moved. Deep blue fabric was woven with silver threads that formed ancient vulpine symbols of wisdom and peace. Each pattern told a story. Each symbol carried meaning that went back thousands of years. Her grandmother had worn these same robes when she served as an ambassador to the Crystal Worlds. Now it was Zara's turn to carry the honor of her people. Doctor. Night Whisper? A human voice interrupted her thoughts. She turned to see a tall man in a crisp military uniform approaching. His dark hair was neatly trimmed, and his brown eyes held an expression of professional courtesy. I'm Captain Marcus Chin, Chief of Security for Kepler Station. Welcome aboard. Zara inclined her head in the traditional Vulpine greeting. Thank you, Captain Chen. I trust the preparations for tomorrow's negotiations are proceeding smoothly. Marcus nodded, but she noticed a slight tension in his posture. Yes, ma'am. However, I need to inform you about our security protocols. All visiting dignitaries must undergo a complete biosecurity scan before being allowed access to the station's main areas. Of course, Zara replied. I expected as much. Your people are known for their thoroughness in security matters. Marcus led her toward a section of the shuttle bay that had been partitioned off with portable screens. The scanning equipment is set up in the isolation chamber. It's completely private, and the scan takes approximately 10 minutes. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, our chief medical officer, will oversee the process. As they walked, Marcus explained the technical details of the scanning procedure. The bioscanners would check for biological weapons, infectious diseases, and any hidden technology that might pose a threat to the station. It was all very reasonable and professional. Zara listened patiently, but a growing sense of unease began to build in her chest. They reached the isolation chamber, where Dr. Mitchell was waiting with 2 technicians. The human woman was middle-aged with graying hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. She smiled warmly as they approached. Dr. Nightwhisper, I am Dr. Mitchell. I want you to know that we'll make this as comfortable as possible. The scan is completely safe and non-invasive. Thank you, Doctor, Zara replied. What exactly does the procedure involve? Dr. Mitchell gestured toward the scanning equipment, a cylindrical chamber surrounded by complex machinery. You'll need to step into the scanner and remain still while the sensors map your biological signature. The process requires removing all clothing and personal items to ensure accurate readings. Zara felt her blood turn to ice. The words hit her like a physical blow, and she stepped backward instinctively. I'm sorry, but I cannot comply with that requirement. Captain Chun frowned. Ma'am, I understand it might be uncomfortable, but it's standard protocol for all. You don't understand, Zara interrupted, her voice strained. In Vulpine culture, the deliberate exposure of one's body to strangers is considered the highest form of dishonor. It's not merely uncomfortable. It's a violation of our most sacred laws. Dr. Mitchell's expression softened with understanding. I see. Are there any accommodations we can make? Perhaps a private scan with only female staff present? Zara shook her head slowly. The presence of any observers makes no difference. The act itself is what matters. In our culture, only life-bonded mates may see each other unclothed, and only in the most private of ceremonies. To be forced to undress for strangers, even for security purposes, would mark me as unworthy of respect among my own people. An uncomfortable silence fell over the group. Marcus could see the genuine distress in Zara's eyes, and he felt an unexpected pang of sympathy. He had studied Vulpine culture as part of his preparation for this assignment, but he was beginning to realize how superficial his understanding had been. Dr. Nightwhisper, he said carefully, I appreciate your cultural concerns, but I have strict orders from command. Every visitor must undergo the full security scan. There are no exceptions. Zara's tail, which had been swishing nervously, now hung still. Then I'm afraid I cannot proceed with the negotiations. I will have to return to my ship and inform my government that the talks have failed before they could begin. The weight of her words settled over everyone present. Marcus felt the crushing responsibility of his position. The peace negotiations were crucial, not just for human-Vulpine relations, but for the stability of the entire sector. If they failed because of a security protocol, the consequences could be catastrophic. Wait, Marcus said, his mind racing. Let me think about this for a moment. He turned away from the group and activated his communicator. Command, this is Captain Chan. I need to speak with Admiral Torres immediately. Priority Alpha. While he waited for the connection, Marcus found himself studying Zara more carefully. She stood with quiet dignity, despite her obvious distress, and he could see the weight of her cultural burden in every line of her posture. She wasn't being difficult or unreasonable. She was genuinely trapped between two incompatible requirements. Chan, what's the emergency? Admiral Torres's voice crackled through the communicator. Sir, we have a situation with the Vulpine delegate. Their cultural laws prevent them from complying with our biosecurity protocols. If we insist on the standard scan, the negotiations will fail. There was a long pause. Captain, those protocols exist for a reason. We can't compromise station security for diplomatic niceties. I understand, sir, but I'm requesting permission to find an alternative solution. The peace talks are too important to fail over a technicality. Another pause. You have 1 hour to come up with something, Chan. But if you can't guarantee the same level of security, the scan happens anyway. The connection ended, and Marcus turned back to Zara. Dr. Nightwhisper, I'm going to try to find a solution that respects both your culture and our security needs. Can you give me an hour? Zara's amber eyes showed a flicker of hope. Yes. Captain, I will wait. Marcus spent the next 45 minutes in intense discussion with his technical staff. They explored every possible alternative: remote scanning, chemical analysis, even bringing in specialized equipment from other stations. Each option had problems, either with effectiveness or with the time required to implement it. Finally, Dr. Mitchell approached him with an idea. Captain, what if we could modify the scanning process? Instead of requiring complete untracing, we could use a combination of fabric-penetrating sensors and surface analysis. It wouldn't be quite as thorough, but it might be acceptable. Marcus felt a spark of hope. How much less thorough? Maybe 80% of the effectiveness of a full scan. We'd still catch any major threats, but some smaller items might slip through. Marcus weighed the options. An 80% security scan was better than no negotiations at all. But was it enough to satisfy Command's requirements? He made his decision. He returned to the isolation chamber, where Zara was waiting with patient dignity. Dr. Nightwhisper, I think we may have found a solution. We can modify the scanning procedure to work through your clothing. It won't be as comprehensive as our standard protocol, but it should be acceptable to both our needs. Zara's ears perked up with interest. You would do this for me? I'm doing it for the peace process, Marcus replied, though he knew that wasn't entirely true. Something about Zara's quiet strength and dignity had touched him in a way he hadn't expected. We'll need to get you different clothing, something lighter that won't interfere with the sensors, but you'll remain fully covered throughout the process. Tears glistened in Zara's amber eyes. Captain Chan, you don't understand what this means. To me, in my culture, when someone shows such respect for our customs, it creates a bond of honor between us. You have shown me that humans can be more than efficient soldiers. You can be compassionate beings. Marcus felt an unexpected warmth at her words. We're just trying to do the right thing, Doctor. The modified scanning procedure took place 30 minutes later. Zara wore a simple gray jumpsuit that allowed the sensors to penetrate while maintaining her dignity. She stood calmly in the scanner, her posture relaxed for the first time since arriving on the station as the scan completed. Dr. Mitchell reviewed the results with obvious relief. Clean scan, Captain. No threats detected. Marcus nodded. Thank you, Doctor. Dr. Night Whisper, you're cleared to proceed to your quarters. I'll escort you personally. As they walked through the corridors of Kepler Station, Zara spoke quietly. Captain, may I ask you something personal? Of course. Why did you choose to help me? You could have simply followed your orders and let the negotiations fail. It would have been easier for you. Marcus considered the question carefully. Because I realize that if we can't show basic respect for each other's cultures, how can we hope to build a lasting peace? The negotiations haven't even started yet, and we were already failing the first test. Zara smiled, the first genuine smile Marcus had seen from her. You speak wisdom, Captain. Perhaps there is hope for our species after all. They reached Zara's assigned quarters, a modest but comfortable suite in the diplomatic section of the station. As Marcus prepared to leave, Zara placed a furry hand gently on his arm. Captain Chen, I want you to know that what you did today will not be forgotten. You have shown me that individual courage can change the course of history. I hope we can work together to make these negotiations successful. Marcus felt a strange flutter in his chest at her touch. I hope so too, Doctor. If you need anything during your stay, please don't hesitate to contact me. As he walked away, Marcus found himself thinking about the amber warmth in Zara's eyes, and the genuine gratitude in her voice. He had expected this assignment to be purely professional, but something had changed in that moment when he chose to help her. He was beginning to understand that the success of the peace negotiations might depend on more than just political agreements. It might require the kind of personal connections that transcended species boundaries. Meanwhile, in her quarters, Zara was experiencing similar thoughts. She had come to Kepler Station expecting to deal with rigid, militaristic humans who cared only for their procedures and protocols. Instead, she had encountered a man who was willing to risk his career to show respect for her people's customs. It gave her hope that the seemingly impossible task of forging peace between their species might actually be achievable. But neither of them knew that their growing connection was being watched by others on the station, others who had very different plans for the upcoming negotiations. The real test of their bond was yet to come. Asterisk, the bond and the revelation. The peace negotiations began at dawn. Ship time. Zara entered the main conference room wearing her finest diplomatic robes, deep crimson silk adorned with golden threads that caught the light like captured starfire. Representatives from both species sat around a circular table designed to ensure no one held a position of dominance over the others. Dr. Marcus Chun stood at his post near the main entrance, his trained eyes scanning the room for any signs of trouble. The negotiations were proceeding smoothly, with both sides presenting their opening positions with diplomatic courtesy. But Marcus felt an unease he couldn't quite explain. Something about the day felt wrong. During the first break, Zara approached him quietly. Captain, may I speak with you privately? They stepped into a small alcove away from the main crowd. Zara's amber eyes held concern as she spoke in low tones. I've been monitoring the communication frequencies from my ship. There's unusual chatter on several encrypted channels, messages that seem to be coordinating some kind of action during the negotiations. Marcus frowned. What kind of action? Do you have any specifics? Nothing concrete, but the patterns suggest multiple parties working together. Some of the signals are coming from within the station itself. Zara's tail swished nervously. Captain, I believe there are forces on both sides who don't want these negotiations to succeed. The implications hit Marcus immediately. It there was a conspiracy to sabotage the peace talks. It could trigger the very war they were trying to prevent. Can you trace the signals? I can try, but I'll need access to your station's internal communication array. And ... She hesitated. I'll need someone I trust to help me. Someone who knows the station's systems. Marcus made his decision quickly. I'll help you, but we'll have to be careful. If there really is a conspiracy, we don't know who might be involved. They spent the lunch break working together in Marcus's security office. Zara's understanding of communication technology was impressive, and she quickly identified several suspicious transmission patterns. Meanwhile, Marcus used security clearance to access the station's internal logs. Look at this, Zara said, pointing to her tablet screen. These signals are synchronized with specific moments in the negotiations. Someone is passing real-time information about what's being discussed. Marcus pulled up the corresponding security footage, and I can see who is in position to transmit at those times. His face darkened as he recognized some of the people on the screen. 2 of these individuals are from my own security team. The afternoon session of the negotiations grew more tense. Zara noticed that every time her delegation made a concession or showed flexibility, certain members of the human delegation immediately hardened their positions. It was as if they knew exactly what to say to provoke maximum conflict. During another break, Marcus discreetly activated a communication jammer in the conference room. The effect was immediate. Several delegates became noticeably agitated when they couldn't send their usual updates. Zara, Marcus whispered during a quiet moment, I think we've found our saboteurs. But the question is what they're planning to do with the information they're gathering. The answer came sooner than they expected. As the day's negotiations were concluding, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Marcus's communicator crackled. To life with urgent reports. Captain Chun to the command center. Priority 1. We have a critical security breach. Marcus looked at Zara with growing alarm. Stay here. Don't leave the conference room until I come back for you. But Zara wasn't the type to hide while others faced danger. She followed Marcus to the command center, where chaos reigned. The main display showed multiple hull breaches throughout the station, and emergency force fields were failing in several critical areas. What happened? Marcus demanded of his duty officer. Sir, it appears we've been hit by some kind of internal sabotage. The damage is too precise to be accidental. Someone knew exactly where to strike to cause maximum harm, while making it look like an accident. Zara studied the damage patterns on the display. Captain, these breaches are positioned to make it impossible for my ship to dock safely. They're trying to trap me here. Marcus felt a chill of understanding. Or they're trying to make it look like your ship caused the explosions. If we can't prove sabotage, this could be blamed on Vulpine treachery. The implications were staggering. If the other Vulpine ships in the area believed that humans had attacked their diplomat, they would respond with force. Similarly, if humans believed that Vulpines had sabotaged their station, it would justify a military response. Either way, the war that the negotiations were meant to prevent would become inevitable. I need to get to the damage sections, Marcus said grimly. Someone planned this too perfectly. There has to be evidence they left behind. On coming with you? Zara declared. Absolutely not. It's too dangerous, and if something happens to you... Captain, Zara interrupted, her voice firm. But gentle. If we're going to save the peace process, we need to work together. I can analyze the sabotage better than anyone on your team, and you know the station better than anyone on mine. Separately, we might fail. Together, we have a chance. Marcus looked into her amber eyes and saw the same determination that had impressed him when she'd faced a security scan. Against his better judgment, he nodded. All right. But you follow my lead on security matters. They made their way through the damaged sections of the station, moving carefully through corridors where emergency force fields held back the vacuum of space. Zara's scientific training proved invaluable as she examined the blast patterns and debris. These explosions were definitely internal, she confirmed, running her scanner over the twisted metal. But look at this. The charges were placed to create a specific pattern of damage. Someone wanted to disable the docking ports while making it look like external weapons fire. Marcus examined the security footage from the damaged areas. The charges were planted during the night shift, when minimal personnel were on duty. But Whoever did this knew our patrol routes perfectly. As they worked, Marcus found himself increasingly impressed by Zara's courage and competence. She moved through the dangerous environment without complaint, focused entirely on finding the evidence. They needed to prevent a war. Her technical skills complemented his security expertise perfectly, and he began to understand why the Vulpine Confederation had chosen her as their representative. Marcus, Zara said suddenly, using his first name for the first time, I'm detecting residual energy signatures that don't match standard human explosives. These charges were modified with Vulpine technology, meaning someone has access to both human and Vulpine military equipment. This conspiracy involves traitors from both species. They found the proof they needed in the station's central communications. Hidden among the standard equipment was a sophisticated device that could intercept and modify messages between the human and Vulpine fleets. It was designed to make each side believe the other was preparing for attack. This is brilliant and terrifying, Zara observed as she studied the device. It could start a war with a single false message. Marcus was about to respond when the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the corridor. He quickly pulled Zara behind a bank of equipment just as three figures entered the communications. Marcus recognized two of them immediately. Lieutenant Sarah Cross from his own security team, and Commander James Burke from the diplomatic corps. The third figure was a Vulpine he didn't recognize, but Zara's sharp intake of breath told him she knew who it was. Counselor Tharn, she whispered. He's one of the hardliners who opposed these negotiations from the beginning. They watched in. Silence as the conspirators checked their hidden equipment. Lieutenant Cross spoke first. The charges worked perfectly. Both fleets are now on high alert, and the station's communications are compromised. One more incident should be enough to trigger open hostilities. Commander Burke nodded. The modified distress signal is ready to transmit. When we send it, it will appear to come from the Vulpine delegation, calling for immediate military assistance against a human attack. Counselor Tharn's voice was cold and calculating. And my people will receive a similar message claiming that humans have taken their diplomat hostage. The response will be swift and decisive. Marcus felt Zara tense beside him. The conspiracy was even worse than they had imagined. In minutes, these three would send false messages that would bring two fleets into direct conflict. Marcus made a quick decision. He activated his communicator on a secure emergency frequency while simultaneously drawing his sidearm. All stations, this is Captain Chun. I need immediate backup at Central Communications Hub, Priority Alpha. The conspirators spun around at the sound of his voice. Lieutenant Cross reached for her weapon, but Marcus was faster. Don't move. He ordered, You're all under arrest for sabotage, treason, and conspiracy to commit genocide. Counselor Tharn snarled and pressed a control on his wrist device. The signal is already transmitting, Captain. In minutes, both fleets will believe they're under attack. Your interference comes too late. But Zara stepped out from behind the equipment with a smile. Not quite, Counselor. While you were gloating, I was reprogramming your transmission device. She held up her scanner triumphantly. The messages your machine just sent inform both fleets of the truth, that a joint conspiracy tried to start a war and that the negotiations are proceeding successfully. The look of shock on the conspirators' faces was priceless. Marcus's backup team arrived moments later, and the three saboteurs were taken into custody without further resistance as the immediate crisis passed. Marcus and Zara found themselves alone in the communications hub. The weight of what they had prevented and what they had accomplished together settled over them. We did it, Zara said softly. We actually stopped a war. Marcus nodded, but his attention was focused on her. Zara, I need to tell you something. When I thought you might be in danger, when I realized how much you meant to the peace process, I realized how much you mean to me personally. Zara's amber eyes widened with surprise and something that might have been hope. Marcus, in my culture, when two people save each other's lives and work together to protect their peoples, it creates a bond that transcends species differences. What I'm feeling for you, dot, dot, dot. It's not just gratitude. They stood facing each other in the dim light of the communications hub. Two beings from different worlds who had found something unexpected in the midst of galactic crisis. The negotiations will continue, Marcus said quietly. And they'll succeed, partly because of what we've proven here today. What have we proven? Zara asked. That individuals from different species can not only work together, but care for each other in ways that go beyond duty or diplomacy. We've shown that understanding and respect can grow into something deeper. Zara stepped closer to him. In my culture, there's a saying, the heart knows no boundaries that the mind has not created. I think humans and vulpines have more in common than either of our species realized. As if to prove her point, she reached out and took his hand. The gesture was simple, but it carried profound meaning. Here was a vulpine, a member of a species known for their strict cultural codes, openly expressing affection for a human. And here was a human trained as a soldier and security officer, allowing himself to care for someone his training had taught him to see as a potential enemy. What happens now? Marcus asked. Now, Zara smiled. We help our peoples learn to see each other the way we've learned to see each other. With respect, understanding, and perhaps something even more precious. The peace negotiations concluded successfully 3 days later. The formal treaties were signed with great ceremony, establishing not just an end to hostilities, but the beginning of genuine cooperation between humans and vulpines. Trade agreements, cultural exchange programs, and joint scientific ventures were all part of the comprehensive peace package. But for many of the participants, the real story wasn't in the formal documents. It was in the quiet moments when they saw Captain Marcus Chen and Dr. Zara Nightwhisper working side by side, consulting with each other on technical details, and sharing looks that spoke of a connection that transcended species boundaries. Their relationship became a symbol of what was possible when beings from different worlds chose to see past their differences and focus on their shared hopes for the future. The gentle human captain who had shown respect for alien customs, and the dignified vulpine scientist who had trusted him with her safety, had proven that the greatest diplomatic breakthrough wasn't achieved through treaties and protocols. It was achieved through simple acts of compassion, respect, and the courage to care for someone different from yourself. As Zara prepared to return to her home world to begin implementing the new agreements, she and Marcus stood together one last time in the shuttle bay where they had first met. This isn't goodbye, Marcus said. The treaties include provisions for ongoing diplomatic missions. We'll see each other again. Zara smiled, her amber eyes bright with possibility. Yes, we will. And when we do, we'll continue building the bridge between our peoples, one act of understanding at a time. She boarded her shuttle, and Marcus watched as it departed Kepler Station. But he wasn't watching it leave with sadness. He was watching it carry the promise of a future where humans and vulpines could work together, learn from each other, and perhaps even love each other. The gentle gaze that had changed everything on that first day had become the foundation for a new era of peace and cooperation between the stars. And in the end, that proved to be humanity's greatest strength, not their technology or their military might, but their capacity for compassion and their willingness to see the individual. Worth of every being they encountered. It was, in the truest sense, humanity's finest hour among the stars.